just wanted to show you real quick our hay. We don't have anything to store it in, so it sits outside, and we don't use net wrap. We use sisal twine so that the cows can't get hurt by that. But this is some of our last coastal cutting here on the end. But I'll let you guess which ones are the ones from the Rye and Oats that we cut off at the beginning of the spring. And then a second cutting, oh, probably around June. Our dead grass hay is growing live grass. Not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it didn't do it last year. But I guess with all the rain that we've had this year, it got enough moisture down in there for them to be able to, all the seeds to sprout and grow. You can see these from the first cutting don't have near as much growing on them. We tried to cut it before it had seed heads so we could get a second cut off of it. But pretty neat to see. Your hay is growing grass to feed the cows with. You can see there's ryegrass in here, oats, rye. I mean, that's what, 8 inches long right there? So we haven't fed any of it out yet, but we'll see how they like it. I'm sure they'll eat it up. We got volunteer ryegrass that comes up here in the hay yard every year. And when we get done feeding out the hay, we turn the cows in here and let them eat it all down. You can see I'm going to show these down here on the end. They are just a carpet. You can't hardly even tell that that's hay. There's so much grass on it. It's a little bit yellow in some spots, but pretty fun. Here you can see the cows bedded down out there on the hillside. There's not very much grass out there for them to eat. We'll be giving them some hay here in a little bit, but I've still got a little bit in that ring, and there's some left in that hay ring over there through the trees. We've got we got stuck trying to put out hay. It's alright. Can't see my finger, I'm zoomed in so much. Right there. There's a hay ring out there. It's right in the center of the screen. It's got a full bale in it, but it's in a low spot. They don't want to mess with it, so that may have been a waste, but what can you do when you get stuck? I think everybody's either had feast or famine with rain this year. Either too much or not enough. Not near enough. So I'm pretty thankful for what we've got, because I know some people have had it a whole lot worse than us. Thank y'all. Good morning. It's Saturday, December 1st. I just wanted to make a couple of quick videos showing the different fields that we'd already shown before. Sorry about the wind. I don't know if there's anything I can do about that. But this is that section that the calves were in the last time I shot a video. At that point the grass was still green, the coastal was still growing, but that's been about 3 weeks now, and you can see that it's all turned brown and gone dormant. I don't know if the camera is going to show that up real well, but that's really green right there. This is the rows that are a little bit taller. That's the rye and the oats, and then we broadcast spread ryegrass and crimson clover on top of that pretty thick here in this section. We ended up having a little bit too much seed, so we overplanted this section, but the rest of it was 37 pounds each of rye and oats, and then 12 and 14 pounds of clover, crimson clover, and then ryegrass. So that's what we put out to the acre on these 3 fields that I've been showing you. But again, I'm not sure how much of this is going to come through because the wind. Don't know if the audio is going to turn out, but I'll go in. That hillside over there across the fence is the larger 21-acre field, and I'll go and show you what that one looks like. And then back behind it, between that field and the tree line, is another pasture that we just put ryegrass and clover on. And then behind those trees is our smaller 8-acre field. That's the first video that I showed. But as you can see, even though it was only planted a couple of weeks ago, it's growing up pretty good. We've had a couple of freezing overnight temps, but the rest of the time it's been getting up into the 60s with lows of the high 30s, low 40s. So the rye and the oats are doing pretty good. The ryegrass and the clover are coming up a little bit, but they're not as tall. I just finished planting this section today. We started on it 2 weeks ago. When you got a full-time job off the farm, it's hard to get everything done in a timely fashion. So, but it'll all come up nice. It'll all fill in like these outer rows here. I don't know if the camera's going to catch all the green down those rows very well in this sunlight, but it's looking nice. And you can see where I drove over it and mashed it down planting today, but it's not just green in the rows. All the broadcast seed is coming up nice. Clover's coming up beside it and in between, you know, coming up nice and thick. And I'll take you over to another section across the electric fence here that we just moved the calves out of. They already grazed it down because it was planted about a month and a couple of weeks ago. I don't know how well that's going to show up, but you might be able to see the little green strips that they've already munched down on. Yeah, this is the rye and the oats. It was about, here, and they grazed it down pretty much to the ground, which probably wasn't a good thing for the first grazing, but it hadn't gotten cold enough to shut it down yet, so hopefully it didn't hurt it too much. But this was probably about 16-inch tall coastal that we had planted into right here, and they grazed off all the coastal and then ate right along the rows and ate all of the oats and rye right to the ground. It'll come back. We just got rain last night, so that'll help out. But that's our 5410 cab tractor, and then that's our 6-foot Great Plains no-till drill. It's a nice little drill. Those things are not cheap though, but it does the job. Slow and steady wins the race when you're doing this many acres with it, but it does get the job done and it does do well, so I can't complain too much. Alright, well, I'm going to shut it off and I'm going to go to another field. Alright, here we are out in our 8-acre coastal Bermuda hayfield. This has been planted for about 7 weeks, and you can see that the Rye and Oats pretty much grown up past all of the dormant coastal that was left in here. It's coming up pretty good. We've had some pretty cool weather off and on, so it hasn't had just straight growing days, but I would say it's doing really well. You can see that the clover and ryegrass that we broadcast on top is filling in the rows, but like I said, this is about 7 weeks after we planted it. Looks like it's doing really good. It may not be very tall, but there's a lot of it here. So, if I come over here, of course this is picking a good spot, but you can see it's up to the top of my boot. So just wanted to give an update on this one here. This is the first field that we planted, and you can't hardly see the rows anymore. They've grown up tall enough to start leaning over, and plus you got the ryegrass and the clover filling in the gaps, so it's starting to carpet up. If you can see them, I'll try to get over here by the fence, but this is our part of the herd of cows. A lot of them are laying down over around some trees. They're trying to finish off what's left of a hay bale over there. Alright. I'm going to take you out to the 20-acre field over there on the other side of that tree line. Show you what it looks like. Alright, we're out in the 20-acre field, and you can see the rows pretty well right there. Half of this was planted about 7 weeks ago, same day as the other 8-acre field, probably from about here over to the fence line, right there where those trees are growing up through it. And then the other half was planted the following weekend. You can see where it's planted around cow patties. It's doing a lot better than just out in the rows. Probably ought to get some nitrogen put down on it, but money can only go so far, so we do what we can. Something is better than nothing. But you can see that it's coming up. It's a couple inches taller than the coastal here. When we were grazing this field, bottom half, and then we mowed the top half up here for hay. You can almost see a line right through there where the edge of where they grazed and where we started cutting. I don't know if you can see it as easy that way. The sun's got the wrong light on it. But it's there and it's growing. See, we got some weeds, but I'll come up here and I'll show you where some of the hog damage was that we planted through and broadcast seed over. It's the one saving grace about where the hogs tear it up. At least they've turned it up to where the seed that you're throwing out can stick and grow pretty good. See, here's a spot where one came back and tore it up after we planted. There's another. They can make a mess. You can see in here where they rooted up. It's still growing up where we planted through it. What they tore up is just growing here on top of the ground like this right here. But in this section right here, it's where Bahia was taking over the coastal, so there's not hardly any taller grass here to compete with it, so the seeding just took off. I don't know if you can tell very well, but from here all the way over to about here, this circle is where a sounder came through and tore it all up. Sure does make it rough to drive over, but not much you can do about it. We've got houses back over in that corner, some houses back behind those trees there. Makes it a little bit hard to try to hunt to either scare them off or get rid of them. But you can see the rows coming up. Alrighty, I'm gonna head on back. The wind's starting to pick up some, so I don't know how much of this will turn out.